In the previous lesson, we saw how we can create terrains, how we can create landscape, how we can do landscape design using different tools like the scattering and the distribution of the objects. We can use arrays, we can use proxies when the scene gets too heavy. So we need to start to optimize our scene and not we need to make sure that it's not too heavy, and we can use, again, generative design to generate landscapes, or we can use height maps, or we can use level curves, and so on. So we're basically moving forward our final part, which is the one concerning the rendering. Even though if you need to do rendering, there are also other courses and other videos and guides that you can see, but we're gonna do an introduction. So you can create different types of rendering. You can create like something which looks really flat, like an architectural model, or you can actually do something more realistic. So this is, you know, kind of flat lining, really simple lining, more for a studio with the lights. And this one here is with the flat white background. And this is an override material also that is going to give you that architectural model effect. But if you want to do something more realistic, you want to add trees and vegetation, you can add ivy, you can work with the materials and so on. Then you can do that with many tools that we're gonna see in this video, and that's gonna help you to make things more interesting and realistic. You can use sun, you can use sky, you can use image-based lighting with HDRI, and you can use also a mapping tool that I'm going to show you. So let's get started. Now, to create a simple rendering for an architectural model is really simple. I'm going to use this proxy right here. I can just turn it off just to see the architecture. I'm going to get rid of these, well, of these elements we don't need right now. Actually, I'm going to keep those trees and going to get rid of these other arrays, and also I'm gonna get rid of the interior right here. Now, when you do renderings, you also want to distinguish if you are doing something for an interior or an exterior. So you can also do both, as we already explained at the beginning of the course. So you can do something for together display an interior and an exterior of a house, but this is usually heavier. So essentially what we do in architecture, more in most of the cases, is render the outside, especially for really big projects, and then render the inside with another scene. So you can distinguish interior and exterior. This is also what we're going to do to make things lighter and faster. So I'm going to get rid of everything that right now we don't need, and I'm going to get rid of these house. Just going to use the landscape right here. So this is going to be like a really simple architectural model. And here in the world settings, we have now a white color. Now, if we make this black, we will not see anything because we don't actually have any light at the moment in our scene. So the easiest thing we can do is just bump this into a white background, and this is also gonna work for the lining and the reflections. So we have really flat reflections, we have really flat lining, which is fine if, again, we need to do an architectural model. And this is also a good option if you want to do really fast renderings, you want to explain a concept, and you don't want to make things too hard and too heavy. So another thing we can do is hide or delete anything that we don't need to explain our project. And also we can use decimate. So if we go in the modifiers, you have the decimate, which is a good optimization tool. So if things are too heavy and you think you can do a little bit faster, you can decimate. So if I do 0.1 here in the ratio, you can see that now I have 3000 polygons or face counts against 32,000. And you can see that the difference is not too much. We can also make it like twice 0.5. So you can see that the landscape doesn't change too much. So this is a really good tool if you want to make things lighter. Now for the materials, we can use any source. We can create our own materials. This is covered in the Blender Basic video course. But really quick, we can go in Blender Kit. We can search for a wood material. And again, you will find guides in the channel talking about Blender Kit and how to create materials, how to do a lot of stuff. So just look for them. So I'm gonna use something to create a wooden architectural model. So I'm gonna click and drag it and drop it right here. Now I can do the same operation for anything that's in the scene to have one single material and to do again something that looks like an architectural model made with wood. But we have also a faster way, which is creating an override. So if I search for override here in the settings, and let me try with the material. There you go. So you can see it's right here in the scene view layer override. So down here we can choose to override the scene with a material. So I'm gonna click and I can use this wood, which is called bark, or I can use any other material. Now if I run an interactive render right here, you can already see the difference. But remember that, especially for the proxies, well, we can use the proxies here as an architecture model as well. Other ways we can switch and go into render image mode. In this case, we will not see the proxy, we will see the actual object. But that's going to be overridden as well. So in this case, we're talking about trees. So instead of seeing the actual leaves with the green, we will see the leaves with the same wooden material. Now we're gonna talk more about materials later. What we want to do is also make something a little bit better for the lining. So if we go here, we can see that right now we are using we are not using scene lights. We don't have any lights, nor the scene world. So right now we are illuminating with the default HDRI, which is this one here. Now, if we switch to the fourth, so this is the actual rendering, and we can see that we are now using scene lights, which again are not available. So nothing is going to change if I turn this off. But if I turn the scene world off, this is going to change, and it's going to light the scene using the HDRI right here instead of the flat white background, which is better. You can see it's giving me something more interesting in terms of the variation of lights, in terms also of background. If I want background, I want to increase the world opacity, which is not too great. We can change that. We can customize it. And again, I'm going to see that later on. And you can also rotate around the texture. So when you rotate, it's going to also rotate the lining. So if the sun is coming from another direction, you can see that it's going to change the effect on the object. Now this is an exterior HDRI, but you can find here, if you click on this sphere, you can find also interiors and studios and so on. So if you want to create like a model, probably it's better to use a studio lining like this. And if you want to do something more realistic, you can use an exterior setup. And again, we can customize our own HDRIs. We can create our own HDRIs, but this is just to show you different examples of how you can achieve the architectural model render look. Now, if you want to create a studio setup, you can also use the standard scene world right here, and we can change this to, let me just delete that. We can make this black, and we can use another add-on which is for studio lighting, and it's called the 3-point lighting system. And we can find it by looking for lighting, and these are for exteriors, dynamic sky and sun position. This one here is for interiors mostly and studio tree lighting. So we're going to talk about those later. Let's quickly check the tree lighting system. I'm going to select the building here, and I'm going to go to add light, 3-point lights. And here I want to change the height because this is a really big building. So we want a distance. We want this to be really distant and really high. Now we can not really see much, so let's go into technical view. So you can see those are the tree lights. So you can change there the position and the offset and the height. And of course, we need to adjust also the intensity. Now, if you want to work with the exterior scene, I suggest you to use also other software if you can, like Enscape or Vantage or Twinmotion or Lumion. and you can find these in the channel. Now there are also other more advanced render engine like Octane for Blender, and again you will find it in the channel. And also you can learn more about cycles and Blender if you look for the Blender video course in the channel.